Alright, you probably can't see me. It's too early in the morning. But, old Lavernios made a couple interesting points in his video last night. I think I'll address a couple things. You don't think anything's gonna happen in September? You know what? I hope you're right, because my evaluation of things are saying it's gonna get really ugly really fast. And here's my point. Okay, look, the stock market has been melting up. All of the trillions of dollars that have been printed, and hundreds of trillions of dollars that have been printed. See, we don't even know really the astronomical number of fiat that have been put into the system. I mean, we know roughly, based on the little bit of information that the not-so-Federal Reserve is giving us. And, all the numbers are bupkis. You can't trust the numbers, most of them. And you can't live on this level of fraud forever. It has to end. It's the world's... it's the largest Ponzi scheme in the history of the world, and it's designed to implode itself. Excuse me. I got a catch in my throat this morning, and I can't get rid of it. It's designed to implode everything. But that aside, if nothing happens and the stock market sees, higher highs than it's ever seen before and goes higher and higher and higher, it doesn't change the fact if Wall Street is melting up, Main Street is most certainly melting down. Now, I don't know if you can see it a lot, being the mailman, and perhaps you can. I'm not criticizing that. I understand the barcode thing. They seem to think that they have control over the world, but they don't have control over themselves. They have no self-control. They have outrageous gambling addiction, and they bet everything. They've bet the entire farm on smashing the fundamentals of economic law. And we're a dying empire, and this is the historical cycle that we keep repeating over and over and over and over again. The United States is set up for the greatest failure in all of recorded history. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, most people are living beyond their means, and they've accrued a ton of debt. They've run all their cards out, that being their plastic. They're defaulting on all the debt, all the bad banking loans. This is all designed to implode. I know, 80% of America is running, deficit spending, just like the government is. The government is a symptom of a societal problem. We are bankrupt, and I don't mean just fiscally bankrupt. We're morally bankrupt. We're spiritually bankrupt. The whole thing across the board is bankrupt. Now, in Keynesian economic policy, a country, an insolvent country can default in one of two ways. systemic collapse or war, which is just the same. It all ends in violence. You know, it was, John Maynard Keynes said, in the end, we're all dead. You know, his policies were set up, but, you know, he was an insider. You know, he set up his economic policies to promote failure. He knew that they were failure policies in the same way that Freud, when he came to America, knew that he wasn't bringing a treatment, he was bringing a plague. And this has all been done on purpose, and they've been running a 100-year course, and we're at the end of that 100-year course. This is their time to bring about their new world order and what have you. You know, they're bringing in the new morality, which is no morality. But the bigger point is, you know, everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. There aren't that many people in this country who have all their debts paid off. And, you know, even though there are some who think they do, the currency is a debt-based currency. It's debt. It will never get paid off. Even if you have all your little credit cards and all your little student loans and all your house and all this and that, your car and everything else paid for, just stop paying the taxes on it and find out how much you own something. You don't even own your own soul. Your social insecurity number is it's a banknote. It's a collateral for all their debt obligations. Your soul is collateral on their debt. It's the perfect Ponzi. You pay interest on their debt. It's designed to implode. You know, and most of us were all sold into bondage before we were ever born. Now, to go further, 80% of America is just barely scraping by, and they're defaulting on all their debt obligations. You know, I know I am. You know, I'm not paying any of my so-called debts that I've accrued because I can't afford to. It's either eat or pay my debts. Well, I prefer to eat. You know, it's either have a roof over my head or pay my unsecured debt. No, you know, and so who's going to pick up the tab on that? Who's already picking up the tab on that? The taxpayer. Well, everybody is defaulting on everything, and they don't have any money to pay their taxes at the end of the year. You know, the ones who are actually scuffling and struggling to struggle. I can tell you right now, I'm not paying my taxes. I can't afford to pay my taxes at the end of the year. I can't afford to do it. And if there's enough, you know, I know 80%, I know there's enough of us who aren't going to be, you know, paying into the system this year, or they're going to be working their ass off to try to pay it off over time. We're done. Nobody's going to pay for the entitlements anymore. This is what happens. Between the entitlement society and the never-ending wars, it has bankrupted the country. It has bankrupted the so-called hammer of the nations, the policeman of the world. This is how empires die. This is exactly how empires die. An expansive war regime. That's an unfunded liability, and the you know, the entitlement programs, the Great Society as they call it. Those two things bankrupt an empire. Those two things, and we have both of them, and we are at the end of that cycle. It is all imploding now. They can't. You know, they're all out of fiscal bullets to shoot at this this collateralized debt obligation scheme. the derivatives Ponzi is imploding. That's the whole reason behind the precious metals beatdown that's been happening over the last few months. It's their last desperate move to keep this thing from falling apart. They've lost control of it. They got to a point where they're like, oh yes, we're bringing in that time of our new world order, and then they got cold feet. At the very last second, they went, ooh, this thing's so big now, we may actually lose control of the whole thing and end up with a completely different scenario than the one that we've set up. And they know it. Because on top of that, for the first time in human history, as Brzezinski said, we have an alert and awake public who are politically staring at the creators of this thing, and we're angry. We're pissed off. And that throws the whole game out of work. So there doesn't have to be a complete and total awareness, you know, because most of the sheep, they never counted anyway. But there's enough of us who are actually aware of what's really going on that can really throw a wrench, you know, throw a monkey in their wrench, or, you know, we are the fly in the ointment. We're spoiling it for them. And so instead of backing off, they're going to fall forward and push this thing. That's why you see the massive ramp up in the police state. The police state is getting off the charts in this country alone because they know there's nothing for it at this time. There's nothing for it. They have to have a civil war. We are at that point where, what was it that Jefferson said? From time to time, the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants. We're at that point. You know, fiat currencies, totally fiat currencies, only last about 40 years. And here we are at 42 years. The whole thing is designed to implode on itself. The whole world is in it. And this is the fun part, is that this is the first time, we've never had a precedent such as all of the countries of the world debasing their currency at the same time. All of them, all around the world, are debasing their currency at the same time. And so this is systemic globally. This isn't just an American thing. The whole world is set to pop. This is the largest bubble in the history of humankind. This is the largest boom-bust cycle in all of Keynesian economic policy in history. And they've lost control of it. That's why they're doing everything they can to smack it down. But no, this thing's out of control now. They don't have control over it. They've been doing everything that they can to deceive the punters who are still playing in the markets. It's why you see guys, you know, insiders, traders, and political people. They're all bugging out. They're setting up their little fortresses, and the military. You're seeing the ramp up of the military exercises in major cities to condition the people and the troops that this is your future, and your future is now. This is happening now. That's why I see Russian troops at the damn 4th of July ceremony. Because they know most of the American military is awake, and they're not going to go through with these illegal orders, and so they need the foreign troops in order to go through with the policy. This is happening now. It's right before our eyes, and we've got this last shred of the illusion of freedom and peace and safety. But no, it's all flying out the window. It's like this giant sucking sound, as Ross Perot once said. We are going into captivity, and it's happening right now. We've been in financial bondage, but now our souls are being extinguished in the last long night before the seventh day. But I'm not worried about any of that anymore. I mean, I'm not worried about that for myself, not for myself or my family. I'm worried about that for the rest of you. Maybe not even you, Mike. I mean, you sound like you're preparing. I mean, you got the 50-pound bag of salt, right? Yeah, I just bought another 25-pound bag of salt, another 25-pound bag of sugar, and some more rice, and some more beans, and I'm hoping that I can find enough water in the area around me to make sure that I can soften up the rice and the beans when needs be. I can tell you, man, a little bit of water I got stored up isn't gonna last too long. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of retort your perspective there. And I know, everything's barcoded, everything's scanned. They have a total panopticon going on right now, and it's only being enhanced and tweaked and taken to the next level. But they've lost control of the whole thing, man. All we really need is one big EMP. The whole thing shuts down. All that electronic surveillance bullshit, it goes away. It goes away. And when a comet comes and opens up a big hole in the earth, and it will happen, then what? How's all that electronic shit going to help you then? No, these people have been judged. These banking people, these banksters, call them what you will, they're being judged. They've been being judged over the last 7 years. And it really happened over, from about 2006 is when it really started melting down. If you really want to look at it, I mean, it really started around 2001. 2001, they pulled off that 9/11 job in order to hide the fact that they were imploding quick with the markets. You notice that there was a big tank just before the 9/11 job happened, and it doesn't matter if towel heads from Saudi Arabia came in and flew some planes into the towers, or if it was an inside job. It really doesn't matter. They've achieved the goal of stripping liberties. They've used a emergency to rob people of their liberties, and that's where we're at. And that's what's continuing to happen, and it's just been eroded so far away that we've really only got one thing standing in the way. And we're at a point where people are going to stop listening to that gun-free zone policy that seems to be sprouting up everywhere. People are just going to start carrying guns, and it's not going to matter if it's a federal crime or not. People are going to be like, I'm not safe. I'm not following these stupid orders, gun-free zones and all. So, I mean, that's what we got. That's where we're at. We're at a point where the American public are basically starting to say, I'm done! And that makes for a very very strange set of circumstances. We're at a point where, you know, people can't afford to eat, people can't afford to put gas in their cars. Those two things alone cause civil unrest. If people can't afford to eat, they get very grumpy really fast. We're really only 3 meals away from systemic collapse, you know, from total societal breakdown. Once people go hungry long enough, you know, that's it. You know, and it's a proven fact that after 15 days, people start eating their children. People start eating their children. They will turn to cannibalism. And if people can't put food or, you know, put gas in their car, well, that shuts down the just-on-time delivery system, doesn't it? People can't afford to ship things, you know, or use trucking or even trains, then that really puts a damper on just-in-time delivery. So if you're not sending any freight out, and if you don't have any food, or if your money that you have is debauched to the point where you can't afford to buy the food, that sets up the circumstance for civil unrest, and that's why they're hunkering down and getting the troops in their emplacements, the troops and the equipment. That's why I say this can't go any further, because people can't afford to feed themselves anymore, and it's only getting worse, and it's only going to get worse. And that's why I'm saying we're here. It's happening now. If they got troops on the streets running illegal checkpoints, you know you're living in a police state. And there's a reason for it. The empire is finished. We're done. Move along.